God damn, I need IPA.
This is Beering Ain't Easy, your podcast for beer humor, dad humor, and beer tastings from Texas and beyond. So crack one if you got one and turn it up.
Welcome to Beering Ain't Easy, Season 3, Episode 2, with Ryan and Drew.
Oh, man. I first have to comment, Ryan, on how you were doing some new mouth exercises before you did the title today. It was pretty awesome. I wish we had this on video.
Hey, I usually do some little exercises because I tend to mumble, and so doing some different dialect thing, or not dialect, like diction things, it helps me out a lot. And I didn't have a chance to do that this time, so you got to see me do my quick little warm up.
I was kind of expecting like a me.
My little home.
Oh, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a great episode for you. So a long time ago, early in the podcast, Ab and I did an episode called Beer Etiquette. And Ryan and I are going to take that topic to the next level and talk about what are the worst beer faux pas out there in the world. But to be honest, what I'm most excited about today is we have two of the best beers in Texas that we're going to be drinking. And I feel like we just need to right off the bat talk about these beers because I'm super excited about them. Ryan, do you want to pick one and just like let the listeners know what we got today?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'm so excited about this beer lineup. I think it's the best beers we've had since we did the Pliny the Elder episode. I'll start with the big dog in the room, True Anomaly, Sea of Waves. So this is a barrel-aged golden sour. It comes with the hardware. So it got a bronze medal in the World Beer Cup. It's won a gold medal at GABF, and it's gotten a double gold at the Texas Craft Brewers Conference, including was that one last year? The gold at the Texas Craft
2023 was a silver. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, the silver. Okay, so yeah. I missed some awards for it, but it racks them up. I've never had it before. I'm super excited. Have you had this one, Drew?
I have not. And so both of our beers today are actually in the category of a barrel-aged sour. So, and they're both, their flavor profiles are going to be very different, but both of these beers are very highly touted. So excited about this one. And of course, the one that we are going to pair up with it today, in some circles, it has been considered the best beer in Texas. It's coming from Austin, Jester King, and it is Atrial Rubacite. And that is a barrel-aged sour beer re-fermented with raspberries. And we had this when we went to Jester King, and it was fantastic. So I'm very excited to drink it for the second time tonight.
Yeah, I know way back in the day I had some like really, really good sours, but as far as I can remember, Atrial Rubacite is the best sour I've ever had. So I'm really excited to try Sea of Waves and see how it stacks up.
And this was going to be like a special occasion beer because when we bought it, at the time when we bought it, they weren't distributing this particular Jester King beer in Houston. But I saw recently that they started bringing it over. So, more power to us, but it still doesn't, take away from the greatness that we're about to drink today.
Yeah, now we can drink it and not be worried that we can't get it again.
Hell yeah.
So, Drew, I remember listening to your beer etiquette episode back in the day. What do you remember from that episode? What kind of particular things did you guys talk about?
So I didn't want us to like rehash it. So I listened to I scanned through the pod at like 200% speed earlier today just to see what was on it. And it was really focused on going to like neighborhood parties, like, hey, a bunch of, dad friends hanging out together and what to do and not to do when bringing beers or taking beers from your neighbors. So I think we got a little different spin on it today, especially looking at the notes that you put on there. So what do you think we want to talk about on this one?
This kind of ties in because, it's as Houston Beer Guide has been promoting, it's Houston Beer Month here in March now that they've moved it. and this was naturally my inclination, and it just kind of ties in perfectly. Is kind of the worst beer faux pas when you're like at a brewery.
Ooh.
Instead of, as opposed to like, drinking with a buddy or whatever. So just the things that you see when you're at a brewery that are like, man, don't do that.
Yeah. So like instant like douchebag qualification material here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. This is going to be good. And I'm
perfect.
sure you have some insider information with a brother that owns a brewery that I'm sure there's some things that grinds his gears that I don't know if he would have shared it with you so that it doesn't get back to his customer base, but you can like say them and just not say they're from him and just wink at me. And
I've been around enough up there that I've noticed certain things that, it's definitely affected the way that I behave when I'm at breweries. I'll say that. But I think it's perfect that we're drinking some sours with this episode because we're going to be airing some grievances. We're going to be getting a little sour here.
I like it. Speaking of sours, like which one of these are we going to drink first so that I'm in alignment? Are we going Sea of Waves since you labeled it out first?
I already cracked it and poured it while you were talking. So yes, Sea of Waves it is.
Hell yeah. Did you say what flavors we were supposed to be getting out of this one?
Yeah, I suppose I should have read the descriptors. So it says peach, mineral pear, and tart. Blend of barrels aged 18 months in French oak. Sea of Waves presents effervescent flavors of peach and pear that blend into a tart and dry oak finish. I got to say, my first smell was like white wine.
Yeah, it's definitely got that kind of effervescent white wine smell
and
finish. Yeah, and taste.
Holy shit. It does not disappoint, Drew.
Yeah,
that is so good.
Yeah.
The more tart, the better for me when I'm drinking a sour. And this one gives a nice lingering tartness. And yeah, that French oak, it's not just straight tart. It gives a little bit of like, I don't know if you call it bitterness, but like that wood kind of base for it. It like carries it through. I think it's good.
I also like, they talk about the effervescence there. Like when you hold it in your mouth, you can kind of feel like the bubbles around your tongue. Like it's a very refreshing drink. It's good.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
All right, we'll sip on this one as we get into it. But before we get started, why don't we just break in with a little beer news? So I know there's a little bit of action going on in the Houston area. Ryan, what do you got? What are you hearing?
I mean, the big announcement, elder son bought Southern Yankee, which are they, have you heard much about this? Are they, because Southern Yankee has 2 locations, right? Are they going to keep both places open or are they like just getting the production capacity?
So I know they were for sure moving they said they were going to do all the production on the north side, which that's where their original location was. But they also have that, like what's thought of as one of the best restaurants in Houston that they're managing too. And so I know that they aren't going to be picking that up. I need the deets here. So you were supposed to be our investigative reporter, Ryan. Where'd you go on this one?
People listened to season 3, episode 1, weren't happy with what I said. I'm getting the cold shoulder from my sources, Drew. But speaking of, the restaurant being so good, I saw it was like an article. Yelp came out with their like top 100 restaurants in the country by their criteria. And that Southern Yankee brew pub was one of them. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild too. Like the production facilities, like I don't know. Have you been to Elder Sun yet?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's a small location. And so like this is going to, the article said it's going to triple their capacity. And so I'm excited for them that they're doing well. I mean, we talked to the head brewer when we first went out there, super nice guy. So, I'm excited that they're getting to expand because they make some good beers.
Yeah, I've liked everything I've had from them. I've been, I think, twice. Really excited. Tune back into a future episode and we'll keep you updated on their status.
This just in, as I'm reading the article, the Craft House, which is their top 100 restaurant in America, they will be still owned by the family that created the brewery, but they're basically going to just serve local beers. So they're completely out of the brewing business, but they're going to serve beers by Elder Sun and other local breweries. So restaurant will stay intact. They're shifting their focus to, maybe if you got a top 100 restaurant, man, you don't need the brewery. You just go all in with what's working well.
I guess so. That's cool. I mean, I guess that's kind of best case scenario for everyone. They stay, related to the business, but kind of divest some of it and stick with what apparently they're best at.
Yeah, and let the folks that are passionate about making good beer keep making good beer. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, you've been to Southern Yankee. I haven't. I mean, I seem to remember you saying their beer was good, right?
Yeah, I liked it. What was interesting is they must have like a whole bunch of small lot stuff, because when I was there, they had I felt like they had 15 to 20 different options, but it was like so many on tap.
Since we're on the topic, I guess I had to bring up that 4J Brewing closed over on the west side. I don't think you had been there. I went there one time with a buddy. Yeah, speaking of small batches, they just had, it was little 2-barrel tanks for each of their batches, and they had a core 4 and then a couple extras, and made honestly, I was really excited about the kind of bar food they had. It was hot dogs with chips, or chili, or a Frito chili pies. So, it was really basic stuff, but it was stuff, I'd get excited about if I was eating outside at a picnic table or whatever. So I had a really good experience and I liked it. So it's sad to see they're going away. It's a cold world out there right now, I guess.
It's a cold world. This, we can't talk long enough without slipping into the darkness.
I'll say every episode.
Let's get back to the fun topic. So you're in a brewery. Let's say you're serving the anniversary party for your brother, and someone comes up. What are the things that immediately just throws up red flags for you?
So, one of my favorite things, and I've only seen it a couple times, but I'm sure my brother sees it constantly, is they'll get a beer and they'll try it, and then so one of two things will happen. They'll try it and they'll go, that's not bad.
Oh, damn.
and the other one is they'll get it and they'll go away, and then they'll come back up later and they'll be like, hey, you know what you should do with this beer, and try to give feedback on what they should do different with the brewing. That one's always funny
too.
Yeah.
Actually, my home brew, I use this hop, and it really gives it a little better flavor profile.
Yeah. So those are always super funny to me.
Yeah, I think in general, just shitting on someone's work, they're probably assuming maybe it's just a bartender, beer tender, and not the actual brewers. But a lot of these small breweries, they don't have tons of employees. So you could be literally talking to the owner or the head brewer, and then you're like, yeah, this kind of sucks. So it's damn, it's there's no social awareness on what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's worse is straight up telling the brewer, hey, you should do it different, or telling the bartender they should do it different. They have any say in the matter.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's true.
What grinds your gears at a brewery, Drew?
The one, it's not something that I've had to deal with because I'm not an attractive beer tender, but the one that always gets made fun of on memes is people thinking that a server is flirting with them just because they're just doing their job and being kind and friendly. And then they try to hit on, trying to hit on the bartender just because they're being cordial. That's the douchebag meter goes off, alarms are going off big time.
Yeah, that is a funny one. I like that one. I guess while we're on this topic of the way people talk to the staff or brewers, is this is a very popular thing. Not to bag on Oklahoma at all, but it's not as much of a craft beer place as say Houston is. So you get a lot of people that come in that don't drink craft beer at all. And instead of being what's something really light? I'm new to craft beer. They come in and they're what do you have that's like Coors Light? It happens so often, you'd be shocked. Or like, I guess even going even further is people that try to order like domestics. They're like, I only drink Busch Light. Do you have any of those? I'm like, no, we only have beer that we brew.
I almost thought you were going to say in Oklahoma, someone would come up and be like, hey, do you have some of that Freedom beer?
Oh man, I need to ask my brother if anybody's ever asked for that.
I saw an article that said that like they got rated as like an F on the Better Business Bureau, that actual Freedom Beer Company in Georgia or wherever it is.
I'll say, did they ever actually ship that beer?
Yeah, I think they did. They partnered with a brewery and actually went open, but they got a very low business rating right now.
Dang.
Surprise, surprise. It's the cost of freedom.
All right, you're up, Drew. What do you got?
Oh, I'm up. Okay. I'll flip the script a little bit. I think this one is a faux pas for the facility that's serving your beer, and that's dirty glassware. When you get the beer that comes out and there's like carbonation looking like bubbles everywhere, and you're just like, did they run low on glassware? And Bob's in the back with a little like dirty towel, like trying to hand wash it, or it affects my my beer drinking experience.
Yeah, 100%. No, absolutely. That's like a horrible feeling when you're like, especially if it's like you see like lipstick on the glass. It's like, ooh.
Oh, damn. Never had that happen.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, yeah.
You sure it just wasn't like a lady that was like taking sips out of your beer when you weren't looking?
I had a buddy in college that, yeah, if you ever left your beer on the table and like went to the bathroom, he would drink your beer until you got back. And he wouldn't make a big deal out of it. He was very discreet. He didn't do it for show for everybody else. It was like literally his own personal joke, and you wouldn't really notice unless you were paying attention. And he would just do it all the time. And I found it very amusing, and I always took my beer with me. One of the things that I've gotten super paranoid about is like leaving my glassware on the table. Like it's one thing if you have a little bit left and you get another round and you finish it, and it's still, sitting there or whatever. And then like a lot of times they'll come around and pick them up. But like the worst case scenario of it is like, yeah, you get a beer or you have a couple or whatever and you finish it, and then you set the glass down, you get up, you go back to the bar, you close out, and then you walk out, and you don't bring that empty glass with you and just set it on the bar with you. It's like, come on, man, have a little like consideration for the employees. Like, just help them out a little bit. It's not hard. Like,
it's kind of like at the it's at the grocery store when someone leaves their shopping cart like in the parking spot, and it's literally like 2 parking spots away from like the cart return. Yes. You're like, come on, man.
That's a perfect corollary. Yeah, for sure. Because it's like, yeah, like these breweries, like, the tap room, it's got like 1-2 bartenders, and if it's busy, they're like running around like crazy. They don't get a break, and you can't even just like bring a glass up for them. Like, come on, man.
So I have a question on one that, maybe it's a little bit of a am I the asshole question, but I've noticed when we go out to drink that you never seem to ever get flights. And I think you're doing it because you're trying to be considerate to the bartender not having to like do all the small glassware, pour 4 different things, write things out, and like tons of work. But I always want to get it because I just love variety. And so is that a faux pas, or is that just your personal ethics that you want to make it easy for them?
So when we first started talking about the so-called H-Town Brewery Challenge, which we totally finished, we just forgot to talk about, and, we didn't want to bring up old news, whatever.
We'll circle
back to
later.
That one day and like talk about the conclusion of that. But yeah, we used to talk about how like basically we used to talk about how it was a faux pas that a place wouldn't serve flights because that you wanted to like try all their stuff, which is fair. It's a fair opinion, but also, yes,
I still have that opinion.
If you get a flight, you get 4-ounce tasters. That's a 16 ounces. So you can get one beer for 16 ounces and make them pour one glass. Or you can get a flight and make them pour 4 little glasses. Make sure you get them in the right order. And a lot of times they write it out on a board or whatever for you. It just takes so significantly longer. And then you're cleaning 4 glasses instead of 1. It's just so much more work for the brewery. And yes, this is absolutely from helping my brother out and having to deal with all this stuff all the time. I definitely have.
You're like the brewery's guardian angel.
I've totally changed my tune on flights. Now I like kind of avoid them.
Okay, I think that's a fair point. That's not going to change my opinion, but
I don't blame you for getting them. Beer tenders and brewers and stuff like roll their eyes about it, but if they really hated it that much, they would get rid of it. It's just a little bit annoying, but it's more good than bad. You're getting to have someone try more of your stuff, so it's definitely for the best. So, Drew, how are you doing on this beer so far?
I'm like halfway through it. I still am a very big fan, but I was kind of thinking maybe we swap over to the Atrial, drink it for a while, and then save some for the end to kind of go back and forth to see which one we officially like the most. What do you think?
I like it, and that's perfect timing because I'm getting low on my first one.
Get low.
Speaking of getting low, what did you think of the Super Bowl halftime show, Drew?
Oh my God. I loved it. When Luda came out, damn.
Did you like this one or the LA one better?
Hands down, Snoop and Dre are like my favorites of all time. So like I don't know that a Super Bowl is ever going to top that for me personally, but seeing Lil Jon and Usher and Luda, that was pretty good in my books.
Yeah, I agree. The Dre Snoop one, 50 Cent. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 50 Cent hanging upside down like a bat,
looking so uncomfortable. Yeah,
he's a Houstonian now.
We didn't talk about the color difference here, but yeah, Sea of Waves was like a very gold, like a straw kind of gold color. Atrial Rubacite. Did we read the description? I don't think we did.
No, we didn't.
I did the first one, so this one's on you.
Raspberries were added to mature barrel-aged sour beer and re-fermented to dryness. Unfiltered, unpasteurized, and 100% naturally conditioned. And then it has a disclaimer, which I don't really understand, is it says the name Atrial Rubacite does not refer to any claimed health benefits. To be
I don't get it either, but I like it.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, lots of raspberries. So it pours like a ruby red. It is like very red.
Yeah, and it's definitely like unfiltered is a good word for it because you can't. There's like no light passing through this. It's a thick boy. It smells like just straight raspberries, and it's got a nice like white head that sits on top when you pour. I could see this as a beer. If you don't like raspberries, you're not going to like it. But if you like raspberries, oh boy! Initial reaction, Ryan.
It's tart. It tastes like raspberries. It's not nearly as carbonated, which that was one of the things with Sea of Waves. It talks about how it was so effervescent, which I forgot to comment earlier, how I'm so happy they threw that word in their descriptors. My 2 favorite beer descriptors on the face of the earth, mouthfeel and effervescent. So I'm glad they hit one.
1 for 2. But speaking of mouthfeel, the Atrial, it drinks a lot thicker. It's a lot. It's like you're drinking a little bit of fruit puree with your beer, and I make that not in a bad way. So some folks are going to listen to that and be like, "Why is that even called beer?" But it is very good.
It is, and you're right. It does. I didn't think about that, but it definitely does drink a little thicker. It seems like it covers your mouth a little bit more. But yeah, it's got that same tartness I love. I really like raspberries, so man, like. This brings me back to being at the brewery last summer. I remember having grand plans of like trying different things, and then I tried your Atrial Rubacite. I was like, okay, well, so much for that. I'm getting that.
It's a great summer beer. Like it's like both of these beers I could see drinking in the summer. They're very refreshing, but like I remember it being pretty warm out when we went and had it, and it was just it hit the spot, and it was like, man, this is why Jester King is considered one of the best in Texas.
I don't know what else to say. It's so good. These are both so good.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. That this is the best beer lineup we've had since the best beers of 20-something.
Yeah, I don't remember what year that was.
2010. You can tell that we thoroughly analyze our past
2010. Time Machine 2010 beer.
Okay. Great episode, by the way, if you haven't listened to it.
Go check it out. Pause this one right now. Go listen to that one, and then come back here.
You can find it on crossthestreamsmedia.com or on all your favorite podcast platforms.
And now, back to the show.
If you say it fast enough, people can't hit that like skip 15-second skip on the podcast. You just have to just get it in really fast, like an auctioneer.
I have my podcast app set up where when I hit forward, it goes forward 30 seconds so I can jump through. And my back is set for 15 seconds. So if I jump too far and it's past the ads, I can go back 15 seconds and get it back to the right spot.
You got a system.
Life pro tip.
So do we need to wrap anything else up on the faux pas? I ran out of my brewery faux pas, but I did have a few on the list that may have been carryovers from like the home party and maybe a few beer podcast faux pas that we're known to do often that I thought I'd throw out there.
Yes. So I have one more brewery related. So we'll hit that one and then we'll transition to, outside the brewery.
Yeah.
And this is one I did ask my brother. I was like, hey, like what something that like drives you nuts? And they sell like a bunch of chips, popcorn. Like they have like a local person that makes like bar snacks and stuff with like local beers and stuff like that. So they sell it in the brewery. And what he said was like, yeah, people will be eating something and they'll drop or spill something on the table. And instead of like putting it to the side or whatever, they'll just brush it off onto the floor. Just like, never think about it again. Just like leave it down there.
Is that kind of like Texas Roadhouse when they used to have like the peanuts all on the floor?
Like that's it's like it's another one of those things. It's just like so inconsiderate. And it's like it's not like it's a full wait staff to like clean up like they're not there to clean up after you. They're just
people are savages, Ryan.
Just trying to serve beer. So yeah. If you drop something on the table, set it to the side, throw it all away at the end. Come on, guys. We're better than this.
So I think we should save the podcast faux pas for last because it's a little self-depreciation.
You got me on the hook now. Like it's a cliffhanger for your co-host.
Yeah. But I feel like we have to mention one. I think you brought it up on the podcast before, but you got to tell the story again about being served beer with ice in it. Because like that may be like one of the worst beer violations ever known to man.
Yeah, there's a couple aspects to this story. So yeah, I live on a great street, and I love my neighbors. I'm going to start with that. So, in
case they're listening,
we do a lot of like block parties, and what my neighbor and I started doing was we started setting up. He has a projector and inflatable like screen, and he initially got it to like watch movies in his backyard, but we started putting it up in my driveway and using the projector to play like Astros World Series games or big football games or like whatever. Like when we come up with after Halloween one year, we put it was an Astros World Series game, but after that got over, we started putting up like Halloween themed music videos in the cul-de-sac and started having like kind of cul-de-sac parties. So yeah, we're playing one of these Astros World Series games, and I'm busy trying to get everything set up and bringing out tables and snacks and all this stuff, and people start showing up. So I get out there, And a couple of guys are out there and they're drinking beer. And he's like, "Hey, you want a beer?" And I'm like, yeah, sure." Hands me a styrofoam cup. And I like take it and I'm like, "Wait, what?"
First foul.
Yeah. And I think it was a Heineken. So he hands it to me. He's like, "It's a Heineken." And I'm like, "Okay, thanks." And I look in it and there's like 3 or 4 ice cubes and a bunch of beer. So not only is it in a styrofoam cup, which is awful on its own, ice in the beer, also awful on its own. You combine the two. I was having small talk with him and the other guy that was standing there, and I took a couple sips, and then I was just like holding it and talking to him for a couple more minutes. And I was like, "All right, I have a couple more things to bring out. I'll be right back." And I go inside and I just dump it in the sink. And then I bring some other stuff out and didn't bring it up again. But woof.
I never could look him in the eye ever since.
As Kevin McAllister would say, woof.
But funny story on that. I didn't realize this, but in that movie, because that's the scene where his older brother has a girlfriend and she's like, they're making fun of the girl, but the director of the movie did not want to like shame an actual girl from the picture, so he made his son wear a wig and dress up like a girl so that the woof comment was his son dressed up like a girl. Did you know that? I thought that was hilarious.
That's amazing. Good for him.
Yeah. It makes the scene so much better when you go back and look at it and you're like, "Oh yeah, I can see that."
Yeah, that's great. And also, props. Yeah, turn not use just a picture of a girl and like allowing that.
To shame some girl.
Yeah. Good for him.
So Ryan, I intentionally ask you that question so that I could set myself up for one of the greatest podcast faux pas on a beer podcast that we do. And that's retelling the same stories and talking about the same things on multiple episodes. Biggest faux pas on the podcast. And thanks for delivering.
Yeah. I just hope the details are the same.
You can tell if he's making it up or not. Check the tapes, people.
No, that's fair. It just, it sucks that I never remember what we actually have talked about or not.
You have to listen to the episodes afterwards.
Yeah, it's a tough shell game to play. Like trying to figure out like if you save it for the podcast and then you're like, I've been saving it. Did I use it yet or not?
And when you've been doing it a couple years and you're like, don't have that many exciting stories to tell, you sometimes circle the drain on some of the same shit. But that's why we're waiting so long in between episodes, because that's just to build up our stories. So
that's why we needed to wait 4 or 5 months to start season 3. Is we just had to build the stock back up.
Oh yeah. So my other podcast faux pas is mispronunciations that I'm very well known for. Not just the European ones, but when we brought Sylvie on and I was, it was the Draught Queens and I was saying it as Draught Queens because it's spelled like draught and I didn't understand what I was doing. That was a pretty big faux pas. Saisons, I never know if I'm pronouncing that right. Goza, Goose. I'm the king of mispronunciations on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I admitted to to Marin that when she was like, "Oh, we got some Trey Fontaine," I was like, "Oh man, I always thought it was Trey Fontaine or Three Font." I don't remember what I said. There's something. I messed it up.
You're still getting it wrong to this day. That's why I love you.
Still not 100% sure what's what, but actually, that was another thing my brother said was when people come in and they're like, I'm kind of a beer snob, so hopefully your stuff is good. And he's like, okay. And he's like, can I get the Kolash? And just like mispronouncing like simple beer styles.
I'm kind of a beer expert myself. The last faux pas I got for us is when we roll onto an episode and we start a topic, but we kind of like half baked the research. That's a Beer and Ain't Easy special.
That really is.
You got anything else to close out our faux pas, Ryan, or are we just gonna stick a fork?
I got one more that.
All right.
I don't want to throw my wife under the bus, but she is guilty of this, and she knows it.
Ooh.
Is when people leave, like, you're drinking like a 12-ounce beer or 16-ounce pint, and you leave like 2 ounces of beer in the bottom. I know people are weird about backwash, and she's one of those people. So they just leave like a bunch of beer in the bottom. And I feel like that adds up. And I feel like beer is good, and it should not go to waste.
I'll add on to that. The other worst part about leaving a small amount is like when you're cleaning up the house and you're going to throw stuff in the trash, you may think it's empty, but it's actually still got stuff in it, and then it ends up in your trash can, and then you have that liquid layer building at the bottom, and you're like, damn it, so why did they just pour their shit out?
I have a second story time about college. Going to college at Oklahoma State, there's a lot of country folk that you party with. What I consider a faux pas, and I feel like, speaking of podcast faux pas and retelling stories, I feel like you've talked about this or we've talked about this before, is beer bottles become very convenient spit bottles. And people put those around everywhere, and they become landmines.
Don't grab the wrong beer, Ryan.
Yeah, so I feel like that's a faux pas. Like, don't do that. That's gross. Come on, guys. We're better than this. We've had a chance to try both of these beers. I think we need to make a decision. The sour that we both said is like one of our favorite beers, or the highly decorated sour. Have you made a determination? Do you like one of these better than the other?
Man, this is going to be a really hard decision. I've been just drinking the Atrial, so I think I'm going to need to do a back and forth before I give my answer. And I also am going to use this time because, speaking of stories, I do have one that I have to share that's like a dad story. So if you're okay, before we close out the beer topic, I got to tell my Colorado story, Ryan. First off, I'm going to give a shout out to a brewery. When the family, we took a weekend trip to Colorado, which was my first time to go skiing in like a gazillion years. And so it was great. And we went to this brewery called Westbound and Down, which I loved it immediately because it's kind of like Eastbound and Down, Kenny Powers. And they had some fantastic West Coast IPAs. So shout out to that brewery. I wish I could have taken some of those beers home. It was fantastic. And I probably should have mentioned that brewery was in Idaho Springs, Colorado. That's where Westbound and Down was. So kind of on the way from Denver to the mountains. So check them out.
Is that one of those like mountainside mining towns?
Oh, yeah. They had the gold mines and everything. That's exactly where it was.
Ah, dude, that's amazing. Like, those are like the coolest. It like seems like a different world when you're driving through there and you see those little like straight up the cliffside, and you're like, how did people live here?
But Ryan, my story has to do with flying in an airplane with a toddler. Have you had some good flight experiences with your kids?
So our youngest, who's 9 months old now, we've flown with him twice, maybe 3 times. Knock on wood, he's been an angel, amazing every single time. The first 2 times we flew with Lily, we were like, one of them, it was like on takeoff, she pooped. So we had to sit with her with poop in her diaper until we got to cruising altitude to go change her. The other time, we were on descent and she like pooped, and it was like borderline blowout to the point that Allison called the flight attendant and was like, this can't wait. Like, I need to change her. Like, can I go change her? And she was like, I can't tell you can, but I'm not going to say anything if you get up and go. And so she had to like rush and go do it and try to get back to the seat before landing. It was like this whole thing. So she had a couple issues, but generally they've been pretty good. I'm curious to hear where you're going with this.
I'm so glad that you broke the ice with the poop topic here. So,
oh no, okay.
So, dude,
perfect. Let's go.
So, in my 11 years as a parent, I've never had to deal with this, but I've always worried about it. But our youngest, 2 years old, she had a stomach bug before we took the flight, and so we were a little worried getting on the flight, like, this could be bad because she's, having some tummy troubles. So we got on the plane. Everything's all good. We're about to land in Colorado. We start descending, just like you're talking about. And all of a sudden, we're like, what's that smell? And we not only looked down, but it was all up and down her back. And it was on the seat and on the surrounding area, clothes, everything. And we're like, oh my God. And so I didn't even ask the stewardess. I was like, I don't care if we're supposed to be locked in. I was like, I picked her up and I held her out in front of me, like that biohazard, like I don't want to put my hands on anything. I'm going to, bring her through like I was, carrying a cross in church or something. Make way. I got a poopy diaper here. And then Meredith had to follow behind me because the clothes were just shot. And so here we are, plane's descending. We're kind of bouncing around. We're in that tiny little bathroom. I had to put her standing up because I was having to pull her clothes off and then hand them to Meredith. And Meredith is putting it in a bag. And I was trying to change everything standing up without just getting it everywhere, which was it was getting everywhere. It was the worst thing I've ever had to deal with. And so started cleaning her off and went through 400 wipes. And we, at that moment, we realized that we didn't bring a spare set of clothes for our daughter on the plane. And it was all in checked luggage. So we were like, oh my God, this is going to be great. And so we put her in a diaper, cleaned her up, and we got back to the seat and we put her in we just had a jacket. So she was basically in a diaper and a ski jacket in the plane. And we made it back and we thought everything was good. And then we realized that we still smell something. What's going on? And we looked down and I shit you not, but the seatbelt had been contaminated as well. And so we had a full biohazard situation on our hands and we were trying to scrub it and then finally just tell the stewardess, I'm sorry, but we're the parents that just completely contaminated your plane. The one that was on the video that had to come back and land because someone pooped all over the floor. That was us. So we made it 11 years, but I'm glad our youngest made us go through that experience.
First of all, that's an amazing story. That's the visual of you doing the Lion King, circle of life, holding your child up. Do you think that flight got delayed while they cleaned the plane?
So, yeah, I'm sorry if you were trying to fly out of Denver at super late at night in January and you were delayed. It's possible that it was my kid's diarrhea. Have you ever rented an Airbnb that you had to cancel or they something screwed up on it that you got there and you're like, oh fuck, we're not going to be able to stay here? Because that happened to us on that trip too.
No, that has not happened.
Oh, dude, it was I loved the trip, but it was also the trip from hell at the same time. So we got there and they had just had a big freeze and a lot of snow and it was really cool. We came in, the kids were so excited. We saw snow. They had never really seen snow ever like that. So they were just in heaven. And we got to the house and I guess they had just flipped it. And there were people from Texas that flipped the house in Colorado. And all the water lines were frozen when we got there. And they called us ahead of time like, hey, we had this guy there trying to thaw everything out. They got some heaters going. Nothing was working. And so I started going through the house because I'm a curious guy. So I started looking at the piping and where everything's coming in. And I shit you not, they had less insulation on their piping than we have in Texas. I was like, oh, they're fucked. And so I started getting on the phone. I was like, Meredith, find us another house. So we went from Idaho Springs where we were supposed to stay and we ended up going to another surrounding town, 20 minutes away. We were able to land something in 20 minutes. But I was like, dude, how do you live in Colorado and you freaking can't keep your pipes from freezing? I feel like that's a Airbnb faux pas.
Dude, for sure. That's one of the I don't know if that was a DIY flip or if it was whoever contractor they hired thought it was a summer home where it's you're going to shut off the water and drain it and shut it down for the winter or something. Yeah, something got dropped there.
Never had that happen before.
Yeah.
I was calling the guy. I was like, hey man, I don't want to be a dick. I just want my money back so we can go stay somewhere else. I'm not going to give you a 1-star review, but I just want my money back.
Dang.
All right. So I think we need to come back to your question on the beer. So have you been going back and forth?
I have.
I'm going to flip the question on you so I can, since I was talking so much, I wasn't sipping. So you give me your thoughts and then I'll catch up.
I mean, I wasn't going to say it, but just kidding, Drew. All right. So honestly, I was biased going into this. I was like, oh man, Atrial Rubacite. I said it off the top. I was like, this is the best sour I've ever had. Loved it. I still love it. But I got to say that kind of the depth of flavor of the Sea of Waves is like, it's blown me away. Like I went to Atrial Rubacite and was tasting the raspberry and it's so tart and that like real fruity flavor. And I was like, man, this is so good. Like this is like as good as I remember it. This is definitely the winner. Like I liked this so much, was sipping on it. And then you talked about going side by side. So I went back to the other one. I took a sip and I was like, oh shit. It's just,
there is a new beer in town.
There's just so much depth to it. Like we talked about, there's like the fruitiness, the tartness, but then also that like oak comes through way more. So there's just like a whole range of flavors going on. And man, I got to give it to the Sea of Waves. What do you think?
Okay. So here I was thinking both of us were going in where we had like a foregone conclusion that it was Atrial because we both loved it. We both like raspberries. And I thought I was going to come in with the wild card and be like, there's a new kid in town and it's called Sea of Waves. But you stole my thunder, man. But you were like spot on. So like Atrial is fantastic. If you love raspberries, it's your beer. It's great. But it's almost like, you know, like sometimes when you drink a Spindletap hazy and it's like if you want that taste and you want to go like off the chart, that's what you want. It like blows your mind with flavor. But like the balance of that Sea of Waves is just, I could see why it's got all the hardware on the awards. It's just a really well-made beer. True Anomaly they're just knocking out of the park lately. They've been bringing in lots of hardware.
Yeah. Am I remembering this correctly that True Anomaly is building a new facility nearby their existing location?
That's a great question.
We might need to cut this whole part. Once again, Drew.
We came unprepared.
Well, that and we came in thinking one thing and got proven wrong mid-recording.
I think it's always great when you get proven wrong in a way that the beer that you thought was great is still great, and then something else came in greater. So like that's a win-win situation right there.
That's true. So I will say, True Anomaly posted in mid-December that they are building a new facility.
How did you find that quicker than me? You got a cat in your arms right now, and you're holding it up like the cat, the old cat video that was like playing it was playing the piano, the keyboard.
Doesn't she look so happy right now?
Oh yeah. Brian was able to, I'm searching on my phone and he was able to search that on the internet while he's holding a cat, strangling a cat right now. He's choking his cat.
This cat.
Call PETA.
This cat is my wife's cat and she scratches the shit out of me and tears me up all the time. And I wonder why.
I don't blame her.
I was going to say, I wonder why when I'm holding her up to the camera to you. Man.
Great times.
This went off the rails fast.
Man, I tell you what, though, this has been a really fun episode. We got to drink some of the greatest beers in Texas. I still stand by that. These are both like top 10 beers in Texas for me. I highly recommend everyone to try it. You get them both in the Houston area now, so go out and check them out. And when you're buying it, make sure that you're not flirting with the bartender that just tells you good morning. And make sure you don't do all those other things that bring you in the douchebag status. So, Ryan, you want to close this out tonight?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about faux pas tonight, and there's only one faux pas that I haven't brought up yet, and it is this. If you are a craft beer lover and you don't like sours, that's a faux pas. You got to change that. Get one of these two, and you'll come around. I'm confident.
That's all Ryan's got to say about that.
Yeah, that's it.
See you all next time.
This has been a Beering Ain't Easy production out of Houston, Texas. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook or at our website at crossthestreamsmedia.com, where you can find our podcast and all the other great sister podcasts on our network.
This has been a Cross the Streams Media Podcast.
I've made the joke previously, but that was a Michael Scott moment. If I start a sentence and I don't know where it's going, and I just hope I find it along the way, and I didn't, so I just kind of cut it off.
That's a Ryan faux pas.
Yeah.